Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Gyle here, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series. I hope you all had a magnificent weekend and all of your gaming fantasies came true before you were so cruelly catapulted back into the working week and mundane Mondays. But fear not, I am here with more SOPCOM goodness to blow away the cobwebs, give you your daily fix. You hopeless strategy junkies, the lot of you. It's going to be a ladder match, and it is going to take place on Emerald Crater. So let's head on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. Emerald Crater, of course, as always, needing little or no introduction. So happy that this map has made its way back into the ladder pool. I've only cast 2 of these, or in fact, this will be the second. I've only cast 1 of these in the past. The last one was a very clutch game between Rock and Varro. If you haven't watched it, do check it out. This one, however, is going to be between Frenzy in the blue corner up here, going Cybrin, opening first land, and his opponent down here at the 6 o'clock position in the red corner, Petricpwns or Pwns, depending on how you pronounce that memeism or whatever it's called. And like I say, he's going first land. Going to go second air, throw that down next to the Hydro, and draw epic amounts of power. Of course, it's not the quickest map to get mass on. It's X amount larger, but it is one of the coolest maps. I know lots of people don't agree with me. They say, Gyle, why do you like Emerald Crater? Well, they don't, but I can imagine them saying that. And I can tell you why I like it. It is epic in certain sense. I mean, it's a lot larger than many of your conventional 1v1 maps. But there are no strategic avenues of attack. It is essentially an open basin which you can attack from any angle. That means you have to be considerably more intelligent with your scouting, more intelligent about where you place intel structures such as radar. Your opponent is not going to come from one straightforward avenue of attack down a canyon or an alleyway. It is going to be from anywhere he desires. Basically, you've only got these small cliff edges defining the corners of the map with a few little mass points up there at the edges. Anywhere else is fair game. There is virtually no impediment to where you can walk. Very shallow hills are about the only thing that might block out the occasional shot, but that is it. We've seen the first few units coming across the map now from Petrix. Looks like moles in the middle, coupled with the occasional hunter. And one engineer also being escorted. You can see he's going to throw down a factory and a PD and a radar station. Nice little combination of structures going down there at the 6 o'clock position of this central piece. We've also got a transport coming out from Frenzy. He's going to try and snag the western 9 o'clock kind of, I suppose they're like islands. You can imagine there was some kind of water here at some point. It surprises me actually that no one's ever made a water version of this map, or if they have, I haven't seen it. As a challenge for some map makers for you. Redesign Emerald Crater immediately, I demand it. But a few air units getting shot at by some static tracer fire there from Frenzy's base. He's already thrown down a Magno. I always forget that. I always want to say Mango, but that's my dyslexia coming in there. It's a Magno, the T1 radar station there for Cybrin. And the fact that this is a mirror matchup is going to be all the more interesting. I'm going to wonder if we see some early Monkey Lords being rushed, but a beautiful bomber there from Frenzy, taking out 3 engineers and cancelling a whole load of build orders as well. Always annoying. And we've actually got a skyhook here from Petric as well. He'll be aware that Frenzy has made this play to the western island over here, and he's already harassing it with a bomber. Has he had any success though? Not as yet. 0 kills out for that bomber. Of course, the minute I said manages to snag 1 engineer kill. Very nice indeed. But this is interesting because Frenzy has made the move to the eastern island with his comm, so he's being incredibly greedy here at the 6-minute mark. Not content with the western island, he wants to shut out Petric altogether, but Petric is having none of it. He is making a move to the western island with his ACU as well, and I think that means it will be a nice grab for him. I think he's going to be able to contend with that Frenzy, not with what he's currently got on the ground. The engineers have been bombed into oblivion. There are no static PD structures in place or anything like it, at least not for the moment. A few Mantis, or a Mantis and a couple of Hunters. I like that little combination there. It's like George and his little brothers. One of them doing all the work. Jaboo. Oh, trouble. Mantis arriving from Petric. Takes out both of the little brothers. And leaves two Mantis to go at each other. But meanwhile, Petric has made landfall on the western land island. Land island, as if all islands weren't lands, you know what I'm saying. But he's made a play for it, and I'm pretty sure he will be able to hold that down. Doesn't seem to be a great deal of reinforcements coming down that side of the map to hold on to that at all. Frenzy's going to make his play for this island over here. But it's quite interesting. Petric's thrown down a PD, so it's going to be a little bit tougher for Frenzy to grab without losing a few hit points on his commander. And he's also bagging some extra structures. He's thrown down a factory as well. And very cheeky little move down here. You can see Frenzy's been incredibly greedy. Grabbed 2 of the mass points, got halfway through building a factory, but that wasn't to get completed. In fact, no, sorry, that wasn't Frenzy's. That was Petric's. So Petric got beat down there by a counter NG drop in the bottom right-hand corner. Petric's also dropped up a hunter at the top. Going to leave that there in anticipation of Frenzy going for another drop into the corner for some more mass on those 3 mass points. And Frenzy also hasn't made a drop up here at the top left as yet. Just going to be sitting there with a bomber and a couple of inties. So Frenzy going very aggressive indeed, deciding he wants to take the bottom corners first. But Petric has stayed on this for the moment. Nice stream of units coming up the middle from Petric as well. Looks like they're flanking right to try and take out these 3 mass points at the midpoint between the north and east island. Could be trouble though. There is a an auto gun already in place there, and I'm not seeing any Medusas in that mix, not at the moment, so he's going to have a hard time taking that down there with just Mantis. Frenzy has managed to finally kill off that PD, but he's lost 50% or thereabouts of his hit points in the process. I think he is going to be able to secure this. But conversely, looks like a similar situation this time for Petric, and this time Petric has also managed to do so without losing quite so many HP on his commander. All 3 mass points at the southwestern point here in the central ring have gone down there for Petric, thanks to another little group of units from Frenzy. The last group of units, I think, to come out of this base in the west. Petric's going to rely on those bombers to thin those out. You can really see what I'm talking about here. The amount of attention that you really have to play effectively on this map in a 1v1 situation. You have to attack from all different avenues. There's stuff going on all over the place. Little micro bases of 3 mass dotted around everywhere, which means none of them are really any more strategic than any other. But there are lots of places that will command or desire your attention at once. So it really can test even the best players in the game. Mantis, meanwhile, from Petric, are making a nice little run by around the top of the North Island, picking off at least 1 mass. Could potentially grab another one here. I imagine they will do. Frenzy's trying to shadow them with units of his own, but he is slightly too far behind, I think, to catch up. Certainly to save this mass, although this bomber could potentially get a nice little run here. Beautiful little bit of micro, though, from Petric. Keeps all those units alive and unscathed. Finally, that mass point goes down. But still, Petric trying to make a nuisance of himself over on the right-hand side. Little factories kind of popping up around here, but I think he's going to have to be realistic about this. That is lost. He's not going to be able to do anything with Frenzy's ACU there. What have they got in terms of build power? Well, 3 air factories in production there for Petric, or up and running, and just the 1 there for Frenzy. So Petric probably going to have a nice advantage in the air game. Needs to get a handle on these odd bombers that are out dotted around the map, though, from Frenzy, and needs to watch out for these drops as well, as another skyhook seems to be landing in the bottom right-hand corner. There are engineers already on the ground, though, for Petric, and a bomber circling overhead, so that is very unlikely that engineer is ever going to see his mother again. Indeed, he's not. Down he goes. Once again, Looks like Petric's going to be in command of that bottom corner on the right. Still one engineer on board that Skyhook, though, heading towards the left-hand corner, it looks like, this time. And there is already a land factory in place, so it's going to find it hard there, Frenzy, to make a play on that. And I think his aggression could potentially work against him here. He's still yet to take control of the top two corners, and I think it's fair to say that Petric will have both of those before too long, although this is very poor timing for Petric. Another Mantis making its way this time into the bottom right-hand corner from Frenzy. Should be able to snag both of those engineers, but I don't think Frenzy's attention is on this bottom-hand corner. That is a real shame, and that bomber's probably going to be able to pick that up without any real issue. Large groups of units finally meeting up with one another in the center of the map this time. Potentially Petric looking like he might get sandwiched between two forces, although there's not a lot now on the left-hand side. Nice skirting to the left maneuver is going to keep him out of any real trouble. But meanwhile, potentially could be losing this southeastern position. 3 mass points under threat. 1 autogun in place, but no walls there to defend it. And also a couple of Medusa in the mix as well. Take a look at what Frenzy can see here. He has passed over that already. He knows all about that. There are a couple of Mantis that are going to want to take out these light artillery first. Question is, will they be able to snag them before this autogun gets destroyed? Yes, they will. I think. Oh, 138 HP left on it. That's not a great deal. This Mantis should be able to finish that off without any real trouble. Large groups of units still alive, though, on the left for Petric. Knock that back up to +1. There is a autogun up here defending the northwestern position, but it's not going to be able to contend with the amount of spam that's in that mix, especially not since there are also some Medusas in there as well from Petric. So nice unit comp from both of these guys at the 14-minute mark. And Frenzy still trying to gain some kind of initiative on the bottom corners here. I think he's finally given up. That engineer is heading for home on his merry little way. And a renegade on the field. Interesting for Frenzy. That's going to really annoy Petric. He's not going to be able to finish that autogun. He's going to have to get some interceptors down here to defend. There's also some Mantis coming in to the bottom right-hand corner. Still, Frenzy hasn't seemed to have made a play for the top 2 corners. He's certainly more concerned about what's going on around his main base. Lots of renegades on the field now for Frenzy. Going to start working on this spam. And Petric is going to lose all of those units. Just a single Sky Slammer in that mix. Not going to be anywhere near enough of the anti-air required to fend off 4 of those renegades. And more being produced all the time. Lots of build capacity around that T2 air factory. They continue to spam out those gunships best speed as he can. All 3 of these factories seem to be working on interceptors for the moment. Still no T2 in the air from Petric, so he's not responding immediately in kind. And now this western island is under threat once again as the renegades come in. There is some static T1 anti-air already in place, a couple of them in fact, and that's going to be just a little too much for these renegades to be able to deal with. 2 go down already. He split up the rest of them to use them in more targeted mass-related attacks, I guess, around the field. Hasn't quite got enough on the field to neutralize this little base. Going to come in with a small push on the ground instead. Petric should be able to finish that off without any real trouble with his commander in the area. Doesn't have access to overcharge, though. Still just 4,000 power in the bank. Not enough, of course, for that crucial overcharge. But luckily for him, it's not a massively significant force coming in from the north there. They are going to be able to snag just the single mass point, I think, on their way through, although might potentially pick up some build capacity here as well on their exit out of this island. Taking a look at mass, though, Does seem that Frenzy is ahead in the mass game by a considerable margin. 59 plays 39, 20 mass in it. And considering Frenzy hasn't made a play for these top two islands yet, or sorry, top two corners, that's quite surprising. He's obviously been ecoing a lot harder. We've got 3 out of 4 T2 mass points in his main base. A little air engagement kicking off around the northern base as well. Frenzy's going to win that without any difficulty whatsoever, with the assistance of some of that tracer fire coming off the base there. Finally, Renegades moving in to deal with this naughty, cheeky little base that Petric had set up here at the top left. And Frenzy finally throwing down a land factory of his own, making a play for that top left corner. Also going to be sending a skyhook in with more units. I imagine they're mostly going to be engineers to grab this top section. So nice little maneuver here for Emerald Crater, getting a intel unit, something like a mole in the area, and hitting it up with a bomber and just letting that patrol, putting it over all these different places. It seems to be a feature of Petric's play. Certainly he's got another one patrolling over the northeastern midpoint here. Currently just going after those mexes. But more Renegades being pumped out very quickly indeed. You can see the rate at which they're getting built. Lots of build capacity on there. And how much of the eco is that using? He's maxed out on his mass. Working on some T2 power now. First step of expansion. Quite a lot of units on the ground now, moving out from the western island here from Petric. Very bad place indeed to park your interceptor fleet, Frenzy. He promptly realizes they all take off. Renegades coming in as well, and it's interesting he hasn't committed more Sky Slammers to this mix. It's mostly just Mantis and Medusa spam for the best part. But down here at the southeastern midpoint, Frenzy's had some nice success. All 3 of those mass points are down. The associated accompanying factory is down. And finally we have some T2 air from Petric. So he has responded by upgrading one of his air factories to T2 at the 20-minute mark or so. Has a few Renegades on the field. Question is, how is the eastern island looking for anti-air coverage? We've got one tracer here, another one here. So not too shabby. He's going to go for an air attack, needs to focus, of course, on those tracers first. Of course, 4 land factories can immediately switch up to producing Sky Slammers. And I think if Petric's going to make a push in the air, he's going to need more units than that, especially since a lot of interceptors now on the field as well for Frenzy. They're being diverted out to the eastern quadrant of this map. Going to go straight after those air units coming in from Petric, who's not going to be going straight into the main base, and instead going to stick to the eastern edge of it, focus on a couple of mexes, PD, and a intel structure, a radar station. But now I don't think any of those gunships will be returning home. They've been completely cut off by those interceptors. So fanning out, going to go after the northeastern midpoint and the top right corner instead. Nice split there from Petric, and a few units behind the line here over on the left-hand edge of the map. But look at that, 2 Renegades fly overhead over a huge horde of Sky Slammers that literally insta them out of the air. Couple of Mantis wanted to try and get into this bottom left-hand corner, but Petric says, nah, I've walled it off. Nicely done, sir. Those 2 Renegades just going to work on the factory up there at the top right-hand corner. One lone interceptor doing his best to get through those Renegades before they can finish off that factory. They switch up, take out an engineer, and then get back on that factory. Another whole air wing of Inties coming in now to deal with those. I think they might just get there in time before that factory goes down. No, they won't. And they decided to land instead. What a shame. There is at least one engineer, though, on a reclaim mission up here. If Petric sees them, he could definitely hurt Frenzy by grabbing that. But a lucky escape. Frenzy brings in those interceptors at the last minute to snag those. In the meantime, though, large air engagement happening in the middle of the map. It's hard to say who's got the better of it. I think it's going to be Petric. Most of the interceptors for Frenzy were diverted up there to the top right-hand corner. Petric took the opportunity to launch an attack while they were already engaged. Large group in the middle from Frenzy. Another large group approaching from the east to the southeastern midpoint, and a smaller group as well that have come right down the middle here between the exact middle and the western island. And Petric coming in to try and counter them with some Mantis on the ground. He'll be able to manage those. They're not being microed or anything like that. Be a nice little pick up there. He's managed to save all 3 of those mass points. But now Petric trying to ward off this group of land units that has no accompanying anti-air involved in it with renegades. But Frenzy coming in with just a couple of interceptors. Decided not to commit his whole air wing. Instead, he's sending a portion of it out to the west-hand edge of the map, where he's got his own renegades. He feels he's going to need those to protect against incoming invasion from the western edge. Still no Sky Slammers in the mix. A couple of them actually over here on the left, but not enough to deal with that many renegades. Certainly not enough. Air playing a very crucial part in this game already at the 25-minute mark. Absolutely vital on a map like this. Renegades going to work over here on the west. I'm surprised that Petric's not throwing down more tracers. In fact, he's got access to T2 tech there on the comm, so he's throwing down Burst Masters and Cerberus turrets. So there definitely won't be any gunship attacks on that western island, not without substantial casualties on Frenzy's part. And Renegades caught napping here as they come in for a little attack on the southwestern midpoint. Interceptors from Petric just cleaning up those renegades. Unfortunate that they didn't have any cover. In fact, I don't think there was any cover to give. Frenzy spamming out inties out of that T2 air factory now. Obviously lost a pretty significant air battle. Lone hero gunship over here at the northeastern midpoint, just working down on that auto gun. Manages to get it just before he gets finished off as well. This is where Petric's multiple air factory strategy has begun to pay off, I think. Seems to have the advantage in air production. A serious body of troops on the ground here for both of these guys in the middle. And it's amazing that this game seems to have opened up slightly. The both players seeming to have amassed significantly larger armies than they had a moment ago. One lone renegade down there for Petric, hoovering up a few units there from Frenzy. Another renegade going to work, so Petric really is just getting key units to where they need to be on the map, picking off mass points. One down there, another one down there. On the T2 mass point in jeopardy, and a large air engagement happening over here to the right. So Frenzy just doesn't have the air units to send out there to the left to fend off these single units. Petric doing a very nice job in the air so far in this game, keeping Frenzy occupied all over the map. But we've got some T3 units on the field, it would seem. So Frenzy, needing to change things up, has made the transition to T3 land, sensing he had to do something. There we go. Loyalists being pumped out very quickly indeed, and being airdropped down here to the eastern island as well. Frenzy, having moved back to his main base with his comm, obviously felt this was perhaps a little too exposed down here. Petric sticking with his new base, or sticking his comm in that new base. but hey, looking pretty heavily in favor now, suddenly in Frenzy's corner. He's stuck to interceptors very heavily indeed, chucking out the occasional transport instead. Loyalists out here to the right, just hoovering up a couple of stray units there from Petric. Grab back that northeastern midpoint as well while he's at it. A pretty significant push over here on the left-hand side. You can see the difference in the air game that's changed over the last 5 or 10 minutes. Frenzy looking very strong indeed. It looks like more devotion is going to have to be paid now from Petric's side of the map. He's going to have to commit as heavily as he can to get back in that air race. See him dumping a bunch of build capacity onto one of those T1 factories there. And looky, what have we got here? We've got a Skyhook that's about to run right past some Sky Slammers, but they just don't quite pass into range, and it's such a shame. That Loyalist is going to make landfall. He's going to have no trouble popping all those Sky Slammers at all. And there's not a great deal of PD on the map. There's a couple of T1s here. He can skirt around those and pick up key structures if he's smart. But a big push happening over here on the right-hand side now from Frenzy. Going to take the southeastern midpoint. One auto gun in that mix. Struggle against that many units. Down it goes. And now the southern base under threat. No PD there whatsoever. Lots of build capacity. Vulnerable T2 power plants on the right hand side. What's Petric going to do to respond to this push? He needs to do something, and fast. He's also got a few units here in the middle. So suddenly tables turned. This transition to T3 ground tech having caught him with his proverbial pants down. Single Renegade comes in from Petric and decides not to fire anything, and then finally opens up. Lots of Sky Slammers in the mix, going to primary those down. A few units being diverted from the middle there from Petric to try and counter this spam. No real defense at all. One Cerberus turret currently up there in the middle. Is not ideal at all. He's going to stick to Renegades to try and fend off this attack. You can see interceptors coming in there from Frenzy, but he didn't like the odds. There were too many interceptors in the locale there from Petric. Little drops happening up to the top left and top right simultaneously. This has to scare Petric a little bit. He's going to have to find some counter to this T3 land. He's going to have to respond to it in some way. Tracer over here on the left. All sections doing their job, but struggle to keep it alive. Yet another mass point down as well. How are we looking at the mass game? Too bad, unless that's reclaim. That is not reclaim. 164 mass for Petric, 110 or so for Frenzy. Finally, the amount of gunships overwhelm, and in the nick of bleeding time, some bricks turn up. We have T3 land tech on the field for Petric, so he has responded in kind. And not a moment too soon. These roaming groups of land units looking rather nasty from Frenzy, but look at these little odd factories popping up around the map from Petric, just sending the occasional units in to harass Frenzy, take his attention away from key areas of the map and deny the odd mass point. But look at the ASFs on the field. We have T3 air tech from Frenzy. He has been busy once again changing it up. T3 versus the T2 air tech down here. That should finally give Frenzy a significant advantage in the air game. You imagine the next large air engagement will now go in his favor. Once again, a large attack pushing out from the eastern island. This time quite as many lower order units and a lot more loyalists in the mix. And out the renegades go again. Question is Frenzy paying attention? Imagine we'll see these ASFs deployed. Look like they're posturing for an attack. Currently just defending renegades of their own that are working on these small groups of T1 spam. Wants to keep that northeastern block alive, that little fire base resourcing option. And back the loyalists go. ASF's coming in, thinking about it. On goes their stealth, and into the fight they go. Along with some extra interceptors on behalf of Frenzy, and I think that's going to go rather badly for Petric. He's not got any answer for the ASFs at all. Of course, the cloaking, the stealth, not cloaking, sorry, the stealth on the ASFs make life so much harder for your planes, and that is a overwhelming victory for Frenzy, as you would expect it to be. Petric facing that tech deficit. Suddenly, once again, Petric finds himself in a bit of a pickle up here at the 37-minute mark. And bangers being produced out of that T3 factory now for Petric, worried about impending air attack. I think that's a wise concern. Still small groups of renegades about the field. And still these little attacks coming in from Petric, this time a brick. He's starting to airlift more heavy duty troops into the area. 18, 19, 20 kills on that brick. Getting a nice little rank of veterancy in there at a key moment as it ran away from the tracer fire, but by the time the renegades turn up, there is nothing for it to do. Finally, the T1 spam succeed. Another brick over here on the right-hand side for Petric, taking renegade fire. Probably not going to get anything of any real worth done with that, I don't think, but uh-oh. Northwestern resourcing option in the middle, looking under threat once again. Petric can do with sending a small contingent out to the right just to make sure he finishes that off, which looks like he's doing. Just to be wary of that PD. In come the renegades once again, though, and that will be the end of those units. ACU wasn't moving, and that's a bad time for your ACU not to be moving when you've got T3 bots kicking around the bottom edge of your base. Of course, long time has passed both these players. Oh, sorry, not both these players. Just Petric having access now to overcharge, having built that energy storage. Frenzy still not having built it, or having lost it somewhere on one of his side islands. Once again, that southeastern base getting wiped off the face of the earth. Taking a look at the ecos and how these guys are doing. Floating a lot of mass there, Frenzy. Not using up as much as potentially he could, but that will probably change. We can see a Monkey Lord's been queued up here at his main base. Does he have the power to spam that up? He's not going to put a great deal of build capacity on it immediately. He's just starting it for the moment. But he's got the mass, really, to whack a great deal of that up. It's about a little over a third ready to go right off the bat. In fact, more than that. So Petric needs to be careful of that. And of course, Monkey Lords on this map, incredibly dangerous. But another Monkey Lord being placed at exactly the same time. So these guys hardly anything apart from one another at all in their decision-making process about when to change up to the next level of tech. T4 being produced at almost exactly the same time. But still, Petric under threat from the sides. He's unable to secure the flanks. He's got units coming down here continuously, and this eastern island's been a major issue for him, and he's had a lot less success up here than Frenzy has had on the other side of the map down here. Lots of renegades on the field now, though, for Frenzy just pummeling into those bricks. To be fair, taking absolute kicking. They still take a long time to die. We have got some ASFs on the field now, though, from Petric, so he's responded to that tech upgrade finally with some ASFs of his own. That Monkey Lord looking to be around 75% done and being built very quickly indeed. He's way ahead of Frenzy, who's around about 50% done on his. The difference is, though, the question is where they're going to send them. The Monkey Lord down here at the south, the quickest and easiest way for him to hurt his opponent, Petric, to send it up here to the eastern island that's been giving him so much trouble and wipe that out. The problem is, of course, there is no ACU there to be caught. And likewise, the quickest way for Frenzy to hurt his opponent is to attack the western island. But this time, that is where Petric has his ACU located. And if he doesn't notice that Monkey Lord bearing down on him, it could be too late before he tries to make his escape. So it's something that you need to be wary of as this game progresses. Missing into the 43rd minute mark as we speak. Very bad choice of parking spot there from Frenzy to land his Renegades. Getting harassed by some ASFs and some bangers in the nearby area. Finally, Frenzy realizes the issue and takes them off, moving them out to the right-hand side of the map. Needs to be careful over here as well. There's lots of Sky Slammers on the ground, lots of Tracer Fire. And although T2 Flak would be much more deadly to this group, I think he's got enough gunships there to take out all the mass points and get out without losing too many gunships, potentially. And Monkey Lord online up here for Frenzy. Monkey Lord online down here for Petric. Neither deciding to throw them at their opponent, though, as yet. I think Petric is more concerned about this blob of troops that's massing on his borders over here to the right. Still doesn't have fantastic intel coverage. This gives you an idea about how tricky Emerald Crater can be. It's a large map, virtually impossible to get to a point where you can get your Omni up. It's a late game thing, the Omni requiring vast quantities of power. So constant aerial scouting and vigilance is required to be successful on this map at any level, more so at this level certainly. Monkey Lord finally on the move now from Petric. Question is, where's that Monkey Lord going from Frenzy? Looking for the moment potentially like it's heading out west, way out west, and the question is, will Petric see it in time? Currently on an upgrade over here on the west, so not able to move. He has got time, especially since that Monkey Lord doesn't seem to be going anywhere. He's doing donuts in the car park right outside his main base. Still, this southwestern midpoint under threat all day, with a bunch of loyalists as well. Not an easy thing to take out. He needs to dispatch some Renegades over there to finish those off as and when he actually gets the chance to. Obviously his attention is split between 100,000 different things right now. Nasty looking group of units though over here on the right, and working on an autogun as well, trying to get some kind of security here, trying to lock it down. But look at the amount of bricks that Petric's got in the area, and they should be able to tear through this span. There are a few bricks as well from Frenzy. They immediately get primaried, targets switched up. Once they're down, should be able to clean up just about. I think that's crazy with the amount of troops that Frenzy's got in the mix here, but they are mostly T1s. The last bricks go down there from Frenzy. It's bricks versus Mantis and Medusa. That should be bricks winning all day. I'm going to switch this up here to split screen so we don't miss any of the action. It's a nice illustration of how well tech does against lower order spam. That autogun still doing a lot of damage. Finally those bricks are going to move out of its range and clean up the rest of those units. So that is a nice little performance there from Petric, annihilating that army completely. That Monkey Lord still online, now pushing out to the east for Petric. This one here from Frenzy pushing south. It's amazing they haven't decided to go for any kind of beeline straight for one of these side bases. Got a lot of Cerberus turrets that have been thrown down very quickly indeed. I'm wondering if that means that that upgrade was T3 tech. Yes, it was. So a lot of build capacity on that commander. He's going to be able to build T2 PD very quickly indeed. So you can keep an eye on that Monkey Lord. He should be able to reinforce this position sufficiently to keep himself out of danger. Crab very nearly finished though from Petric. And that's going to be problems indeed for Frenzy. What's he got to respond with up here? He's not been working on any experimentals at all. He has been spending all his mass though. It's been going into something. He is a slight mass deficit, but not a great deal. And that crab could cause real problems for Frenzy as we approach the 50-minute mark. Another factory, air factory going down. More T3 power being placed as well. But strap bombers being lined up here for Frenzy, so we could perhaps potentially have a snipe attempt on the cards. Trick needs to be very wary of that. There's not a great deal of shield coverage over here on the western island. Of flak and Cerberus turrets. Not a lot of T3 anti-air or any that I can see immediately. There's a couple here, so one Myrmidon there. Now it's Frenzy's turn to pawn overwhelming T1 forces with superior, fewer T3 bricks. But all three of those mass points have been neutralized, so Frenzy not getting the benefit, and now we're finally going to see some experimental action as the two Monkey Lords bear down on one another. The question is, has Frenzy seen that crab? He will have now. He's got spy planes in the area. He's got to be wary. Has that changed his plans at all about what he's building back here? He hasn't thrown down any more experimentals. Back to the action down here, and the two Monkey Lords primary each other. Frenzy comes out the better though, having more bricks in the immediate locale, but I think there's enough bricks on the field for Petric to finish that off. And now we've got the long range arty fire coming in from that megalith, and probably going to see Frenzy back up away from it. It's going to take a lot of casualties on those bricks as they do so. Look at them swat those away. Awesome experimental. Cybran do have some fun toys, no one can deny it. Little air engagement kicking off there to the northeastern edge of Petric's southern base. And now it's going to come down to what has Frenzy got to deal with that crab. At the moment it doesn't look like a lot. Frenzy says something in chat that's apparently funny, but I don't know what it is because it's not in English. But I'll take Petric's word for it. But we have got a nuke launcher up here at the back, so that's what Frenzy has thrown his mass and energy into. How's he doing on the energy front? Not as well as you might think. It's costing an awful lot to build those ASFs, and it's depleting his energy reserves. And that nuke launcher's a long way from being ready with a missile. I mean, it's ready, but getting an actual missile in it looks to be around 45% or so. Has got an anti-nuke of his own as well. Question is there any anti-nuke in the main base? And a bug as well under construction from Petric. There is an anti-nuke indeed, and it's about to have a missile in it as well. So that eliminates this as a choice of target. What about up here? Not seeing any anti-nuke, and this is of course where the commander is, and it's not a great deal of distance away from that nuke launcher. The commander probably has enough time, so he moves it straight away to get away from potential blast radius. That nuke launcher will have been spotted, and finally Frenzy starts working on a crab of his own. The question is, does he have time? That megalith from Petric getting awfully close now as it gets to the top edge of the middle island. to re-emerge onto the mudflats. But a nice little push down here on the right-hand side from Frenzy. Gonna get thwarted though by a couple of well-placed bricks. It's all low order of magnitude. And the T3 we saw coming across this side of the map has long since ceased. It was getting airlifted and airdropped from the top base and being combined with T1 spam. That is gone. Frenzy cannot afford to do that now. Everything is going to come down to how well he deals with this crab. And now it's in range of those bricks. They retreat back onto the main base. Bam! That looked like an Omni that went down at the front, so instant lack of intel there for Frenzy. A real shame, but look how well he's done on his own crab. He's queued up Monkey Lords to flank immediately afterwards, and Petric is going the wrong way. He needs to be heading into the center of the base. He needs to start grabbing this build capacity, slow down production on this. Does he know it's there? He probably doesn't. But at the very least, he should be trying to snag veterancy. But we've got a beautiful bomb coming in from some strap bombers there from Petric. There's no sniper tents on the cards currently for Frenzy. And in comes the Soul Ripper. And this is surely going to be game. There just isn't enough anti-air in the mix. And that nuke launcher, I think, was a mistake. Needed to focus on more defense if he was going to go for the nuke. And immediately gets popped. Down it goes. And Frenzy is surely beaten. He managed to finish the crab, but he is surely done. Soul Ripper focusing down on the commander, and Frenzy quits the game. Down he goes. Is he going to get the commander kill? Oh, 557 hit points. No, he's not. Denied. But very well played from both these guys. Very entertaining game indeed. 56 minutes. Extraordinary gameplay there from these two guys. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. As always, more to come from me in the future. In the meantime, stay well and stay safe. This is Gyle, signing out.